And now we're going to hear from some real live heroes from Vietnam in our next final panel before lunch, which is on the POW Experience. Gentlemen, if you would come forward, as well as Taylor Keelin, who is our moderator. I'll go ahead with my introduction of Taylor as our panelists are coming forward. Taylor Baldwin Keeland is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the United States Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C. She holds a master's degree from Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism and a bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Southern California. A former naval officer, the third generation in her family to serve, she has also worked as an account director for the global communications firm Burstyn Marsteller. Volunteered for numerous political campaigns, including that of Senator John McCain in the year 2000, and continues to serve on several charitable boards of directors. Taylor's next two books, a children's book about careers in the Navy and a walking tour guide of the U.S. Naval Academy, will be published in 2006 and 2007, respectively. Taylor lives in Arlington, Virginia, and she will be our hostess this evening as we gather at the Navy Memorial for our reception there. Please welcome Taylor Keelin.
Would you like our panelists to take a seat, perhaps? Maybe 2 and 2?
Come on down,
you can sit. These guys, as you know, probably can imagine, are very old friends. So we have a little reunion going on up here.
I bring this only because I'm the only Navy pilot in the world.
Yes, the Navy's a little outnumbered up here. We have 3 Air Force gentlemen with us this morning and 1 Navy. Good morning. My name is Taylor Keelin, as Mr. Roberts indicated. You probably can tell that I am way too young to have served in Vietnam. But I am the co-author of a museum exhibit and book called Open Doors, Vietnam POWs 30 Years Later, which takes a close look at the current lives of 30 former Vietnam POWs, including these 4, in words and pictures. There have been many books, articles, TV shows, films written about the POW experience, especially the Vietnam POW experience. And that is because this is a unique group of men, and their families are just as unique. They were, and still are, the longest held group of POWs in our nation's history. Many of them were held for multiple years, 5, 6, 7, some almost 1 or 2, almost 9 years. Many of their families did not know of their fate for years, not days, not months. For those of you who are too young to remember, these were the days before CNN, before the internet, before cell phones, before text messaging. Communications took a lot longer. So many of these families did not know the fate of their loved ones for years. We are lucky to have Colonel Day's wife with us, Doris Day, if she could just raise her hand. And we also have Colonel Marshall's sister here, Sue Marshall. If she could wave her hand. Two family members who waited very patiently for years. This is also a unique group because our country was not unanimously appreciative of the service and sacrifice of this men. As Dr. Sorley and Mr. Roberts said, there is this lingering negative stereotype of the Vietnam veteran as a downtrodden, alcoholic, homeless, jobless, unemployed veteran. And while my objective, or our objective in this book, in this museum exhibit, was to celebrate these men, if we are able to help defy that lingering negative stereotype, then all the better. So many of the families felt alone and quite helpless when they were waiting for their husbands. They felt cut off from the news of their husbands and sons and isolated from each other. So what was it like when these men returned home, when most of the country really just wanted to forget about Vietnam? I call it the Rip Van Winkle Affect. Many of these men left in the early, mid-60s, and as most of you know, 64, 65, our country culturally was still very much in the 50s. They returned home in 73. Think about the cataclysmic political, social, and cultural changes that occurred while they were gone. So what was it like for these men to go back to work? What was it like for them to ride a bike again, read a newspaper? Most of them are pilots. What was it like for them to get back into the cockpit again? One of the POWs told me that when he came home, well, when he left for Vietnam, his wife had on long skirts and his son had short hair. When he came home, his wife had on a miniskirt and his son had long hair. And he was eager to reestablish himself as head of the household, so he grabbed his son by the ear, took him down to the barber, and got his hair cut. He said, in retrospect, it was the most damaging thing he could ever have done to their relationship, and it took years to repair. So how did these men readjust when they came home? And what can these men teach us about how to overcome adversity, take advantage of the second chances that freedom offers you, and get over it? These men took the lessons that they gleaned from captivity, from war, incorporated into their lives, but focused on the positive. And that is the goal of the museum exhibit and the book that I co-authored with my girlfriend and photographer, Jamie Halloran. But these men also have lots of lessons for us and also for many of the soldiers and sailors who are now returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan, some wounded physically, some wounded in spirit. I'd like to show you a quick DVD that just sort of encapsulates the objective and the mission of this work.
As America debates the prospect of another war, this one against Iraq, Veterans Day on Monday will have a special resonance this year. And as we move deeper into the 21st century, there's a poignant evolution underway as the World War II generation fades away, leaving behind vets from Korea and Vietnam. And those who were POWs in Vietnam are getting extra recognition this year in Coronado, California, an island with a long military tradition just off San Diego. Former prisoners of war.
I love to fly, I love to soar.
Sharing war stories of Vietnam.
I've always been able to draw it.
Although not of death, but of life.
Music is my soul.
I think we wanted to capture their humanity.
While working for Senator John McCain, Taylor Baldwin Kylan was moved by the stories of McCain's comrades.
Hope, opportunities, second chances.
Taylor grabbed her childhood friend, Jamie Halloran Quinn, and set out to tell the end of these prisoner stories. With Jamie's camera and Taylor's prose, they focus on 30 lives that began when those prison doors opened 30 years ago.
How do they define health, happiness, and success, given what they have experienced?
It was refreshing to them to be able to talk about who they are now, and that for someone that may feel like they've lost hope can come and see this and realize I can get through it.
Colonel Ben Pollard was shot down on May 15th, 1967.
We just learned to live one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time.
He spent almost 6 years in prison. He just endured his 13th major surgery. But Pollard has a wife.
God, I have a wife. God, do I have a wife. She's wonderful.
And a rich life filled with flying and grandchildren.
The impossible is possible. That you can overcome anything. And I think we came close to it.
Captain Mike McGrath spent years at the notorious Hanoi Hilton.
We all have escapes. We are individual ways.
His window then and now, sketching for fellow inmates, his family, his own sanity. McGrath appreciates this look beyond the battlefield.
They do see the human side of war in that we're all individuals and we all have dreams.
Captain Everett Southwick spent 2,122 days imprisoned.